Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel, and in our top stories today from ABC News. Now, if you guys want to read the full articles, then by all means pause the video and then do a Google search, as YouTube is becoming more stringent with its terms of services and linking, so I'll no longer be linking the videos down below, which actually makes it easier for me, but I always like to have sources. But nonetheless, here we go. The USS Carney, a U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer in the northern Red Sea, on Thursday shot down multiple missiles and drones launched by Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen that the Pentagon said were potentially headed toward targets in Israel. Now, I find it interesting now because the headline here seems to be a bit sensationalized and very specific, saying cruise missiles, but in the beginning paragraph here, it says missiles and drones. Now, cruise missiles are very specific types of missiles. These aren't something that a bunch of rabble-rousing Houthis would be able to get their hands on in some black market deal. So obviously, we're going to have to look into where they're getting them in just a moment. It is the first time in recent memory that a U.S. Navy ship in the Middle East has engaged missiles and drones that were not directly aimed at the vessel. So again, drones and missiles, not cruise missiles. They're not being specific about that part. I think the headline is a bit misleading, if not to capture people's attention. Of course, it is the mainstream media. It's also the first U.S. military action taken to defend Israel in the current crisis, and with the U.S. and other countries trying to contain the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The possibility that an Iranian-backed proxy group fired missiles and drones at Israel is sure to increase growing regional tensions. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just say, we had Joe Biden, who went out to Israel, and probably to reassure them that we had their backs and that we would do our best to help them out. And I'm just curious where this is leading, because as I said in a previous video concerning this, is I don't want to raise any alarms. However, the direction of this and where we're leading is concerning, because I could potentially see the establishment Uni-party realizing that Donald Trump is leading and could potentially be the next president. This may be their opportunity to rabble-rouse even more and potentially hand Donald Trump a total mess, if not a war, in the Middle East. And as we mentioned also in videos, this would be the third crisis under Joe Biden that we've been involved in. Ukraine, Sudan, and now Israel. But as I was saying, the cruise missile, or a cruise missile, is a very specific type of missile. A cruise missile is a guided missile used against terrestrial and naval targets that remains in the atmosphere and flies the major portion of its flight path in an approximately constant speed. So this is a very sophisticated missile. And as you see down here, obviously the Tomahawk cruise missile, a very specific type of missile, has a range of over 1,000 miles. So this would not, as I said, this is not something that Hamas or the Houthis or Hezbollah is just going to be able to come across at a black market. This has to be given to them by none other than perhaps Iran, right? The militias, which have fought far more than a decade against the Saudi-backed government in Yemen, have been supplied by Iran with a variety of weapons, including anti-ship cruise missiles and land attack weapons, naval analyst Chris Carlson told USNI News on Thursday. So, it's possible that this particular missile that they shot down was either an actual cruise missile, which was given to them by Iran, because the cruise missile, again, is a very specific missile, very sophisticated missile, and not something that I would imagine the Houthis are going to be able to get on a black market. But I could see why a U.S. naval ship would shoot down a cruise missiles, considering its sophistication, and, of course, that particular vessel, the destroyer, is designed to shoot them down. So that's something they're obviously going to do. Now, its direction, its trajectory, and all that, of course, is not going to necessarily be revealed. But, of course, it's ABC News, so they're going to say potentially directed at Israel. But it's very difficult to say because, as we see here from Air and Space Forces magazine, U.S. forces in Iraq attacked by drones as threats grow in Middle East. 2 drone attacks were launched against U.S. forces in Iraq in the span of 24 hours, the U.S. military said October the 18th. The attacks, which took place in western and northern Iraq, came as a wave of unrest swept Arab nations over Israel's clash with Hamas. They are also the first attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq by suspected Iranian-backed militias in more than a year. So it's just kind of kicking off here. And as I said, I want everyone to be aware of this. Pay attention to this closely because we're seeing a very warmongering establishment Uni-party right now under Joe Biden. And if they can take advantage of these situations and circumstances, they most certainly will, especially if they think that President Trump would be able to be reelected, or former President Trump would be able to be reelected again. And, of course, as I will be covering tomorrow in the Friday vlog about Sidney Powell, kind of flipping. But we'll get into that tomorrow. U.S. officials said the targets of the drone attacks were Al-Assad Air Base in western Iraq and Al-Harir Air Base in the Kurdistan region of northern Iraq. U.S. efforts to defend against the drones were largely successful, though some coalition forces suffered minor injuries, U.S. Central Command said in a statement. A U.S. defense official said drones were engaged by ground-based systems. So we have a lot of very interesting things going on. Now, this could be just a bit of a dust-up by some of these, by the Houthis and Hezbollah, as well as Hamas. But we'll keep an eye on it because, as you know, we covered, the Hong Kong protests, which then led into the pandemic. And then, of course, we covered Ukraine and what potentially would have happened when everyone said, Russia wasn't going to invade. And that's what we covered. I'm not predicting that it was going to happen. I'm just saying that based upon the news and the trajectory, it was a possibility. And, of course, they mocked Donald Trump for saying that Europe should not rely solely on gas or natural gas and regular petrol fuel from Russia. But, of course, Russia did invade Ukraine, and everything unfolded exactly the way Donald Trump had said, as well as what would happen if Joe Biden became president. Don't you find it fascinating that under Donald Trump, peace through strength, we had no new wars, and he was bringing troops home. Now, under Joe Biden, we are in our third crisis that's going on. We have Ukraine, we have Sudan, or Afghanistan. I'm sorry, we have Afghanistan, Sudan, and Russia. Yeah, right. Okay, so to start it all off was Afghanistan, right? And then Sudan, and then Israel, and of course, we have what's going on there in Russia and Ukraine. So we have all of these potential issues happening in our world right now under Joe Biden. And I hope people are paying attention, as we always say here on the BuzWeaver channel. We'll see what all is going to happen in 2024, but we're still not through this year, and we still have all of next year. And as I said, in tomorrow's Friday vlog, make sure you guys catch that, because now we're seeing the pressure from the establishment Uni-party on individuals who were part of Trump's defense team. It's getting very interesting very quickly, and I see a desperation here that's happening by the Democrats and the establishment. And what happened yesterday is going to be something I'm going to keep a very close eye on, which you'll cover in the Friday vlog. But as far as the Middle East, it looks like things are escalating, but I'm curious to see to what extent, how much of this interaction with the Houthis, with Hezbollah, with Hamas is really going to kick things off, right? Like how much further, how much gas do they have to really, move forward, and how persistent is Iran going to be and other Middle Eastern countries? Because right now across the world, of course, we have higher cost. We have problems with transportation. We have fuel problems. So there's a lot of things going on. So these things are also going to play a factor. So these could be just desperate people trying to do desperate things in a desperate time. But nonetheless, yet another crisis under Joe Biden for the United States. And if people are paying attention, they need to be alert and aware, like I try to bring to you guys, to be alert and aware. And that's what I had for you guys today. So I want to thank all of you guys across New Tech as well as here on YouTube for your guys' continued support. And appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon. You guys can click on to subscribe, as well as to select notifications. And I'll see all you guys tomorrow in the Friday vlog.